Hey everyone, in this video we're going to talk about local storage, which is a property of the window object that can store data in the user's computer. So by doing this, we can remember information to use every time the user visits our website. So it doesn't matter if the user closes the current tab or even the browser. It doesn't matter if the user turns off his computer. That information is always going to be there when he returns to our website. So we could use it to store like the user's name, to send a greeting, or maybe the preferences for filters. So local storage could be very, very useful. Just one thing that we must be careful is to never store sensitive information like passwords or confidential data, because local storage is not very safe. But for simple information like I've just mentioned, it's completely fine. So data in local storage is stored as key value pairs, and the value must always be in string format. So in order to understand better how it works, let's go to Visual Studio Code so we can do some examples. So let's get started with how we create a key value pair to be stored in local storage. As I've mentioned, local storage is part of the window object. So we would start like this. So window.localStorage. Then the name of the method to create a new entry is setItem. And here we are going to pass two arguments, one for the key, which in this case, let's use name, and one for the value. So I'm just going to use my name. As we already know, when we work with the window object, we can omit it if we want. So we could write it like this. So again, as local storage is something unique, we won't think that this is a variable or a function. There won't be any confusion. So if you want, you can just omit the window object, because like this is going to be cleaner. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to set this new entry. Now I'm going back to the browser. I'm going to refresh the page, and now it seems that nothing happens. However, if we call the local storage, we can access all those keys as if this was a regular object, which it is. So we can do like localStorage.name. And if we do this, as you can see, we were able to get the information we want. And the cool thing about this, let me just copy the URL. I'm going to open a new tab. I'm just going to close this, and I'm going to go to a different website. All right, I'm visiting another website, and now I'm going to be back there. If we open the inspector again, let me go to the console. Let's see if that information is still there. So as you can see, that information is still there. So if the user gives you the name once, you can use it every time to say like, "Hi Ivan, how are you?" or something like this. We could also use to do more useful stuff like remembering settings for filters or maybe locations. I'm going to show you an example in a moment about a weather forecast website that stores the recent locations in local storage. Before we do that, let me show you where you can find all the information that websites are storing in your local storage. So if you go here to the application tab, as you can see, we have local storage and session storage. We're going to talk about session storage in a moment. But first, here we have local storage, and it's always going to be the first on the list. Sometimes you will see more. So you should always go to the first one here. And as you can see, we have the key and value that we just set. So every time we return to this website, there could be a greeting calling us by the name. If you want to clean it as a user, you can just go here and just select clear all, and then this is going to be refreshed. This is the only way of doing this, or clearing the browsing history. If you clear it all, it's also going to delete everything in the local storage. So that's the only way. If you never do this, this information will never be erased from here. So now let me refresh the page. If I refresh the page, this is going to be here again, because we are creating this every time we load the page. And another way of removing something from the local storage, let's do this directly from the console. So if in your code, for some reason, you want to erase something from the local storage, you can just do remove item. And then you just pass the key you want to remove. So again, if we go to application, we can see that it's here. And if we run this remove item method, we can go back there, and now the value is not here anymore. And I'm going to show you a situation in which you would want to clear the local storage from the code. Let me refresh the page so we have it back. And now let's move to sessionStorage, which is pretty much the same thing, but the difference is that in sessionStorage, we are not going to keep that information forever. So with local storage, if the user doesn't delete it, it's always going to be there. But on sessionStorage, it's just for that session. So if I close the tab, or I close the web browser, or I turn off my computer, that information is going to be gone. And sometimes we just want that information for the session. So if that's the case, instead of using local storage, you can just use sessionStorage. So let's try something here just for this example, and the methods we are going to use for sessionStorage are exactly the same. So to start a new one, you can just type sessionStorage set item. Let's say we are starting the preferences or preference. So let's say I prefer beach over mountains. Let's do it like this. Now I just set it. If I go to the application tab again, as you can see, we have the local storage with that key value, and we have the sessionStorage. Now, before I refresh the page, let me go back to the code. I'm going to create a comment on this so we make sure that we are not setting it again. So now I'm just going to refresh the page. So as you can see, I still have it on local storage, even though I'm not setting it again. And I also have it here because I didn't close the browser or anything. But if I copy this and I'm going to open a new window, I'm going to open it right here. Let's go back there to the application folder. So here we have the local storage. We still have the key value pair here. And for the sessionStorage, this is not here anymore. So if I close the browser or even just the tab, then the information we stored in sessionStorage is going to be erased. Now, one important thing to remember is that when you're storing something on local storage, the value must always be a string. So let's say instead of just storing the name, we want to store an object. So let's go back to the console, and I'm going to create a variable for a person. So here I have one. So now we have an object with two properties, name and age. And now I'm going to try to store it on local storage. So let's call the local storage dot set item. I'm going to create a new key called person, and I'm going to send this object. Let's do this. Now, when we go back to the application tab, as you can see, we just lost all the information because now what we see here is just an object. If we try to get it back, so localStorage.person, as you can see, there's nothing else we can do with this. Now this is just a string with object written inside. we can't do anything with it. So how do we do this? Should we create one key for the name and one key for the age? Well, if it's a really simple thing you're trying to do with just two properties, then maybe creating one for the name and one for the age should work. But if you're storing more information, then maybe it's a good idea to keep it inside the object. So how do you turn an object into a string? Well, the answer is JSON. So before sending our object to the local storage, so let me go back there. I'm going to erase it. And now instead of sending the object, I'm going to use that method called stringify from the JSON library. So now I'm going to transform that object into JSON and I'm going to send it to the local storage. All right, going back here. Now, as you can see, now at least we can still read it. And when we get it back, all we need to do is just converting it back into an object. So then we can use that information. So now if I would like to get it back, I can just do local storage dot person. And instead of just doing this, I'm going to do JSON dot parse. And if I do this, now I have an object which I can work with its properties. So I could work with the name or with the age. So this is how you store arrays or objects inside local storage. In the next video, we're going to do a simple practical example together. This is going to be very cool to use local storage to do this. But before we go ahead, I just want to show you a quick example. Let me go to yr.no, which is a weather forecast that I normally visit. Let me go to any place here. So as you can see, when I go inside a weather forecast page, I have this list of relevant places. And this is cool because these were the places that I've searched recently. But how do they do this if I'm not logged in? They don't know who I am. Where are they storing this? Well, they are storing this in my web browser. So every time I go to a different place, let's try Porto. Now, as you can see here, now Porto has been added. And if I go out of the website and then when I come back here, I will still see the same relevant places. So if I go to the inspector, to the application tab, as you can see, there's an entry in the local storage. This is the key name. This probably means something in Norwegian because this is a Norwegian website. So this is the key and this is the value. Since this is just HTML, there's no programming with this. They just get this information and just throw it inside this element. It's okay to just store this HTML. So I just wanted to show you how useful it can be to store information in the local storage. So let me close this. And that was all that I had to say for this lesson. So in the next video, we're going to do this practical example where we type the name and then the next time we go back here, instead of showing the form, it's just going to show a greeting. So as this video is getting a bit too long, in the next video, we're going to solve this. So I'll see you then.